I want to speak on a topic that we rarely hear black people speak on. It's interesting that so many black people are so used to talking about white privilege and accusing white people of having white privilege. But how many people actually sat down and talked about black privilege and kids that grew up in a black privileged home? Now I want to speak briefly, and I'm not going to stay on this too long, but I want to talk briefly about Lauryn Hill's daughter, SelahMarley, and other young black children like her that grew up in privileged households. Either their parents had a good job, their parents were self-employed, or in the case of SelahMarley, her mom came up in the industry. She is a celebrity. And I'm not really sure if Lauryn Hill is still making music, but from what I understand, she's still doing concerts and tours every now and again. But whether or not she's doing that, her name is still in the light. And it's interesting that there's so many young black celebrity kids that grow up, and because of the fact that they may have something personal against their parents, either the mother or the father, they take to social media to expose them. Now, I never really understood young people exposing their parents. In most cases, it's these young men or even young girls that expose their fathers. And I can name a few black recording artists or rappers or entertainers that their children call themselves exposing them for whatever reason. I really don't pay too much attention to that. And there's a lot of YouTubers that would take a story like this and run with it because it's Lauryn Hill. And they will sympathize with Lauryn Hill's child, her daughter, and say, this is what my moms did to me. My dad wasn't there. I grew up in this type of household. It was toxic. It was abusive. She beat me. The first question that comes to my mind is, why? Why would she do this, and what would be her motive, knowing that society or social media would take that and run with it to make her moms look bad, or even to make her father look bad? But in this case, she's making herself the victim, and it seems like her mom is the one that she's holding this grudge against. So I can't really understand why or what motive, other than the fact that this is her way, for whatever reason, to hurt her moms. And like I said, many young black children of entertainers do this. When they can't get their way, when things don't go their way, or they have a disagreement with their parent, the first thing they want to do is, I know how to hurt you. I'll take the social media and put your business out there. I'll air my dirty laundry in the public. And because she grew up in a privileged household, it's no thing for her moms to get her help if she needs to talk. Now, I'm not going to read this article. I'll just talk about a portion of it, but I'll put the article on the bottom and you can read it for yourself. It says, Lauryn Hill's daughter, SelahMarley, has opened up about the trauma she had to deal with due to her childhood. In a 2-hour Instagram Live, the 20-year-old spoke candidly about growing up with her famous mother and how having an absent father had affected her relationships. She admitted, "Honestly, guys, I'm just hurting. I can't even front that I'm not. I've been hurting for so much of my life, and so much of my life has been me avoiding how much I'm really hurting just from the circumstances." So to me, this sounds like somebody that's looking for sympathy. They're playing the victim card. Selah, who is the daughter of Lauryn and Bob Marley's son, Rohan Marley, claims she would Google what it was like to have a father because her own dad was so absent. She explained, "I came to the conclusion of how much of my life I've effed up and how much of me is effed up simply because my dad wasn't around." So was she blaming her mother for her dad not being there, or was she blaming her father for not being there? And did she really speak on why her dad wasn't there? Did she talk to her father? Sit down, "Dad, why weren't you there?" Did she sit down and talk to her moms? What would make this young lady go public to air her family's dirty laundry other than she's trying to hurt her mom and her dad? In most cases, young people would want to protect their parents. They would want to protect their family business. Society or social media can't help her. It may make her feel good for a while, but going to social media telling them how hurt you are because you grew up without a dad, or because your mom's whooped you and took her anger out on you, is not really helping your situation. The only thing she's doing is developing or building a bigger wedge between her and her parents. Because you have parents that would take that personal. I, as a parent, would take that personal. Because why would you go to social media to hurt either your mom or your dad unless you're being very, very, very conniving and deceitful? Your motive and intention does not appear to be right. Now, you have people, because of the climate we're living in today, will sympathize with her. They would take her side just because she's a child of Lauryn Hill. Then she says, and there's just a void where there should be a person. And it's honestly really hard. Like it's so hard day in and day out. And I feel like this is common in the black community. I hate when people put the black community as a whole. Black people are exposing themselves. Black people are given the impression that white people or other races have of black people. It's black people that's creating that image. Because everything has to be about the black community. I don't recall not one time where a white person went to social media to expose their parents. Maybe once or twice, but I personally don't remember it. But I don't recall too many white people going, or any other race going to social media to expose their parents. This is what my parent did to me, just to give bloggers something to talk about, just to get some type of sympathy. Everybody is feeling sorry for you now, right? So she says, like, it's so hard day in and day out, and I feel this is common in the black community. Not even that, I just feel like the things I've done because of trauma. See, this is somebody that's not taking responsibility for her own actions. I'm reminded of people that will come and say, I'm an alcoholic because my dad was an alcoholic, or because my mom's an alcoholic, or females, I'm a prostitute because my mom's was a prostitute. In other words, you don't have a mind of your own. You can't come up and change your current reality. If that's the reality you grew up with, don't you feel you have the power and obligation to change that reality? To create a better life for your children and your children's children? You can change that. You have the power to change that. But without taking responsibility for your own actions, you effed up because your dad wasn't around? That makes no sense to me. And again, that's the type of society we now live, where nobody takes responsibility for their own actions. We always got to blame someone else. And that's what I see happening in the so-called black community, with black people not taking responsibility for their own actions. To change your reality and make it better, you have to break that cycle. You can't just sit there and wallow in your mess, your own pity party. Maybe it's time for you to break the cycle. And you're not going to break the cycle by getting on social media, airing your family's dirty laundry. To me, that's pointless. Because in the long run, you're going to regret it. And one thing, I have a pet peeve, and one of my pet peeves is people that make choices and decisions and then come back and say, I'm sorry, or I apologize. I've heard that so much in this generation to the point where I don't even take it serious. I really don't take it serious, because people in this era refuse to take responsibility for themselves. Like the deep trauma. While she also spoke frankly about her mother's discipline style, and she admitted that though her mother was an amazing woman, she did get very angry. So if your mom's was all that amazing, why would you hurt her by airing your dirty laundry? Do you think that you're really helping the relationship between you and your moms by taking it to social media, calling yourself exposing her? Now, this is the last paragraph that I'm going to read, and then I'm going to put the link on the bottom. You can read it for yourself. Selah stated, she would spank us to no avail. She was just very angry. So angry. She was literally not easy to talk to, and then half the time, we didn't live with her. Now, when I read that, you talked about how she was so angry and she spanked you, and she wasn't easy to talk to, but then you, in the same breath, say that you didn't live with her? So where was all these spankings coming from? Where was all this anger and the fact that you couldn't talk to her coming from? And then she said, I live with my grandparents half the time. It's crazy. I'm playing this trauma back in my head as I speak to you now. I'm gonna end it right there because it's quite lengthy, right? But she's privileged. She grew up with opportunities that the average human being don't have. Scratch black community, but the average human being don't have the opportunities that this girl grew up with. And not only she grew up in a household where her mom's was financially doing well, she grew up in a household where now she have opportunities to easily break into the industry if that's the direction she chooses to go in. So now she's got connections that most people don't have. And yet and again, I'm not discrediting the fact that this girl claims that she's hurting inside. See, I'm not disputing that. Okay? My issue is the fact that you have so many of these so-called celebrity kids going to social media with their spoiled behind self to make their parents look bad. Look what 50 Cent's son did. And I can list off a few. They get mad at the parents, and the first thing they want to do is try to mess up their parents' name. See? So, it's a sad reality. That's the way things are. But when I hear stories like this, it's unfortunate, and maybe she is hurting. If you're hurting like that, then maybe you should talk to your mom or even your grandparents about getting you counseling sessions so you can sit down and talk to a professional about it, because these people on social media can't help you. The only thing they're going to do is sit in the seat of judgment. They're going to judge your moms, they're going to judge your dad, and there's some that might even judge you just because of the fact that you call yourself exposing your parents. So I'm going to put the link to this article on the bottom. You can check it out for yourself. Feedback, tell me what you think. Till next time. I'm fearless.